me, in terms of the most powerful way in which we feel Rav Kook's relevance today, I think, are his teachings on unity and really his messages of positivity. And there are actually two short pieces here that you bring in the book on page 168, two short passages that really spoke to me when I kind of looked at this book to prepare for this evening, that I thought maybe we could talk about together. This is on page 168. It says, finding a spark of truth in everything. And this comes from the Shmona Kvatzim, right? We must continually find the spark of truth in everything. Only then will the light of the world be revealed in its highest form. Unlike so many thinkers and teachers, Rav Kook says there's a spark of truth that exists in everything. There's goodness that can be found everywhere and in everything. And he just developed a little further in terms of this next piece. How to overcome negativity. It is only possible to overcome the negativity that we find in the world or in the Jewish people by uncovering the elements of truth contained within them and redirecting them to a good and holy path. Some thoughts on these pieces?
Yeah, I'll just tell this small thing. So I remember being in this one Haredi yeshiva. This is the time I started learning with you and Rabbi David Aaron. And so I said to him, I didn't tell him I was learning Rav Kook, but I said, can we learn Rav Kook together? I went up to one of the heads of this yeshiva, asked him permission to learn it in the yeshiva, and he said, asur, forbidden. And I said, lama? And he said, misukan, he's dangerous. And it took me years to realize he is dangerous, but dangerous in the best way. In other words, he really is telling you, and it's rare for a rabbi, I think it's rare for a human being, not just a rabbi, to just be that open and inclusive. It doesn't mean he's naive. He really does reject things as well. He's really affected by World War I, and he's bothered a lot by people in war and nationalism gone wrong. But for Rav Kook, a worldview that is not optimistic, that does not actively pursue truth in different opinions, is not a godly world. It's so obvious to him that ethics goes together with spirituality, because if you really believe that God is in everything, obviously you have to be kind to people. You have to look inside of people and try and find the divine. So I think this positivity is amazing. You were going to read the passage, but I'll read it. It's on this page. We were going to put this passage on the back of the book. I thought it summarizes everything of Rav Kook. But here, let me read it. It's called The Personality of a Tzaddik. The purest tzaddikim do not complain about evil, but instead increase righteousness. They do not complain about atheism, but instead increase faith. They do not complain about ignorance, but instead increase wisdom. That's it. I didn't cut it in half. That's all he wrote. This is like a manifesto for Rav Kook, those 3 lines. There's evil in the world. I'm going to increase good. People are ignorant of Rav Kook, so I'll write a book on Rav Kook. People don't know about the land of Israel and all the goodness about Zionism, so we'll advocate all the beauty about Israel. Complaining for Rav Kook, it has its use, but in many ways it's a sickness, negativity and pessimism for him. And I want to add something that a lot of people, when they think about Rav Kook, often miss. They usually say, if he would have been in World War II, if he lived till 1935, if he would have seen what happened in Hitler and all these disgusting experiments were done to children and the gas changers, he wouldn't have been as optimistic. In other words, it's coming from, he didn't have the experiences of negativity in his life. So this is just not true. I wrote about it. There's a biography at the end of the book, 20-page biography, where I go through all the different parts of his life. And Rav Kook was in World War I. He was in England. He was being shot at. How many of us have been in a world war? It's very rare. There are survivors, but he was in an actual world war, so for sure he experienced this terrible thing of war in his life. He was not, unaware of it. And second of all, in his own life, how much suffering did this man go through? He lost his first wife when he was very young, early 20s. His first wife died. I'm not sure exactly why, pneumonia. He remarried. For the rest of his life, he's talking about his first wife still. In other words, we have letters where he misses her. Must have been so painful for him. And then later in his life, he spends 5 years in Europe because he's stuck there during World War I. He can't get back. There's no way back to Israel. So imagine going to a trip, Ilan, to America to fundraise for a week and not coming back for 5 years. And he loved the land of Israel. So that how much painful that was. And then when he gets back to Israel after 5 years, and he's writing letters the whole time to his family. He doesn't have his 3 girls. He had 4 kids, a son and 3 girls. And he's writing to his girls the whole time because they're in Israel and he misses them. And his youngest, Esther Yael, he's writing to her all the time and saying, can everybody look out for her? She's so smart, she's so wise beyond her years. And when he gets back to Israel, it's like hard to say. You know what happens to her? So Rav Kook comes back to Israel, and within the first few months of his coming back to Israel, he's one day sitting in his house and he hears somebody, like a fall, and he goes outside and his 12-year-old daughter, his youngest daughter, has fallen down the stairs, broken neck, died. For 5 years he was waiting to come back to us. How much this broke Rav Kook. Here, I'll read you. This is a letter Rav Kook wrote about the incident. I have 2 girls. I can't even imagine being able to live with myself after that. Okay, so it's crazy, right? This is a letter he wrote just straight after. I really have to apologize to you concerning the delay of my letter. However, there is a reason for this. You must already have heard about the terrible and shocking tragedy that happened to us immediately as we returned to the Holy Land. Our precious and beautiful daughter was taken from us in the most terrible and sudden way. It has left an extremely deep wound in our souls. May God have compassion. I know people who heard stories where Rav Kook was at the Shiva, how much he was in pain. So his optimism doesn't come from a place of ignorance, of pain, of lack of pain. He experienced immense pain. The Haredim, the Kanaim in his time period, they burnt his books on the streets. Imagine me publishing this book and then the next week people burning it. I think my ego would be damaged a little bit.
Today there's no such thing as bad press.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it'd be good for you, like
Yeah,
Elon said.
that's easy for you to
It's
say.
like a bad review. It's
Yeah, I wouldn't read the review though. But Rav Kook's optimism, he chooses to be optimistic. In other words, he's developing an outlook towards life that he really can find good in negative experiences and in negative relationships. And in that way, his optimism, I think, comes from the deepest and realest place rather than a naive place.